Alright, so the Daredevil Born Again Season 2 finale has been released on Disney+. This is of course episode 8, and this was an absolute banger. We are here today to do our review, our breakdown, and our recap for this episode, which, by the way, a couple people got upset with me because I said episode 7 was the worst episode yet in the entire season, which it was. That, like, I don't even know how we're having like a debate about that. It definitely was the worst episode, but this one right here, this was the best episode yet of the entire season, but not just that, of the entire Born Again series, okay? Not Daredevil in general, but in terms of Born Again, season 1, season 2, this was the best episode yet. So let's get right into this review. Let's go ahead and start with the opening scene, that being Karen Page back in court. All right, they're looking for Matt Murdock. They're wondering, why hasn't he walked into the courtroom yet? And we happen to see the reason for that being Jessica Jones was currently patching up Daredevil after he was attacked by the AVTF, the Anti-Vigilante Task Force. And then we move over to Buck. Of course, this is Fisk's like #1 shooter. This is his right-hand man. And Buck has to inform Fisk that Daniel has passed away. Now, he does it kind of subtly, but Fisk ends up getting the point. Daniel betrayed them and he had to go at the end of episode 7. That was like the best part of that entire episode. Now, moving back into the court scene, okay, we pick back up with Karen Page in court. They're looking for Murdock. Where is he? And he happens to finally walk into the courtroom with a lot of battle damage, by the way. You could tell he got beat the hell up during that last episode, but Murdock still manages to make his way to court. The judge asks, is he okay? To still, defend his client, and he says, I'm better than ever. Let's go ahead and get into this court case. So they end up putting Daredevil's ex-girlfriend on the stand, that being the psychiatrist Heather Glenn, who's sort of been going crazy throughout this entire season. She of course was attacked by Muse during season 1, and that's left like some psychological effects on her mind, which we've seen slowly panning out throughout this season. Now, as she's on the stand outside of the courtroom, they set up this fake bullseye with a sniper to watch out on the courtroom. At first, they kind of tricked the audience. You're like, oh, his bullseye, he has a sniper pointed at the courtroom. Okay, but no, that's not exactly what was happening. The AVTF set this up for one reason or another, but then we see the real bullseye show up. He takes out all the AVTF members. He ends up taking out the fake bullseye also, and then he's pretty much like, thank you, because they just gave him a free sniper position to watch the courtroom. So now the real bullseye is in this sniper position watching the courtroom, and inside of the courtroom, Daredevil calls Fisk to the stand as a witness. So we see Wilson Fisk walk into the courtroom in a very dramatic scene, and he ends up taking the stand. Now, while this is happening, the AVTF comes in right behind him. They line the courtroom, they close those doors, and you're pretty much trapped in here with Wilson Fisk and his own personal militia as this court case is taking place. Now, while on the stand, Fisk and Matt Murdock are having like this philosophical debate between each other, which, by the way, it was at this point in the episode that I'm thinking, man, I just love when Matt Murdock is in that courtroom, when we're getting these lawyer scenes out of him, and also when we're just seeing him express this side of the Daredevil character, because it's such a huge part of his mythos. And while this is happening, Daredevil offers some video evidence for his defense, and they're kind of going back and forth, like they don't want it implemented into the court case, but it ends up going through after they have a sidebar with each and every judge, and the judge pretty much says, listen, we're going to allow this to take place. And so inside of the courtroom, we see that video that we've seen taking place a couple episodes ago of Christophe Sava, is I believe how you pronounce his name, Christophe Sava. I'll call him Mr. Sava, okay, because that's what they call him inside of this episode. Now, of course, this video was a confession from him about who was on the ship during the sinking of the North Star ship that was going into the Fisk port, and who exactly was responsible for the sinking of this ship, who he says was the Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk, aka the mayor of New York City. So that is a huge blow to Wilson Fisk right there in the courtroom. By the way, during that sidebar, Fisk is like whispering to Daredevil, like, are you sure you want to do this? I could say some terrible things about you in this courtroom, Matt Murdock, which I thought was a nice scene there, just showing, Daredevil's advanced hearing on display. That was a great scene. But now back to what was taking place. All right, so after the video airs in the courtroom, Jessica Jones shows up. She walks into the court. It's a very shocking scene. All of the AVTF is like looking at her like, I can't believe she showed up, because of course this is one of the main vigilantes in New York City, and they've sort of had it out for her. They attacked her a couple episodes ago. And after enough pushing from Matt Murdock during this case, Fisk absolutely loses it on the stand. He starts showing his true colors. All right, the mask starts to slip a little bit, and he just starts yelling and shouting, pretty much saying how he is responsible for why this city is in the condition that he is, that being, you know, crime statistics going down and things like that, and that this city is pretty much being held together by him being mayor. And he's really starting to lose his cool here, and so Matt Murdock starts pushing him a little more. Okay, and he says, who else could know what took place on the North Star, on the ship, right, that sunk? It would only be Daredevil. Now, how could we possibly get Daredevil to testify? And that's when we get Daredevil having his I am Iron Man moment, where he reveals to the court that he is Daredevil. I thought this was a great scene. There's so many great scenes inside of this episode, okay? So many shocking scenes that just are going to wow the audience here, and I love that about this finale. Now, they're like, how could we possibly know you're Daredevil? He throws the baton at the wall. Only Daredevil could have thrown that and caught that, you know, since he is a blind man while doing this. We were just getting so many good scenes back to back, and that is when the judge pretty much dismisses this case. She goes, okay, Karen Page clearly isn't responsible for all of these vigilante charges that she's getting charged with. She drops the case. Matt Murdock had to reveal his identity for it to happen, but he got his lover off, Karen Page, and so it was a success inside the courtroom for them, and Fisk is not happy about this whatsoever. Now, while Fisk is on his way out of the courtroom, he runs into the governor. The governor says, listen, we've frozen all of your accounts. We've shut down the port. I want you to resign as mayor. Fisk pretty much says, listen, you better take it up the chain of command, because by no means is that happening. We are not resigning over here. And during this scene is when we see Buck get sniped by Bullseye, who's been waiting outside the courthouse this entire time for that opportunity, while Murdock and Fisk were having this face off. And then Fisk is like, okay, all gloves are off. All right, he heads back into the courtroom. They shut everyone out. He locks the courtroom, and he starts up a broadcast to talk to the city, to talk to his people, since he is the mayor. And while on this broadcast, Fisk says, listen, I'm not abandoning the people. I'm not abandoning the city of New York. You need me. I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not stepping down as mayor. And it is during this broadcast that we see BB hijack the broadcast with, you know, her whole shtick that she's been doing throughout this entire season, where she's mocking him and she's exposing him, things like that. So now that's going out on the broadcast, and the city is in an uproar. Now, BB even shows her face during this broadcast, and it was at this point that it's like, okay, this is an all-out war that's about to start between the people backing the vigilantes and between the people backing Fisk, which is pretty much no one at this point. It's just him and his militia against the entire city damn near. There's complete civil unrest, and inside of another room in the courthouse, Daredevil is still with the governor. He's with Jessica Jones, and he begins suiting up to go to war. Now, a lot of the AVTF members were sent out of the courthouse to go watch the streets, all right, to go hold the line against all of these people that want to raid the courthouse, that want to rush in. And an assistant of Fisk tells him, listen, the attorney general is calling. He wants to talk to you. Fisk says, no, I'm not talking to him. And that's when the people are ready to raid this courthouse. They've had enough of Wilson Fisk. They start pushing the line more and more. The AVTF says, listen, we're about to open fire. The chief tells another member, listen, shoot that guy right there if he crosses this line. The guy says, I'm not going to do that. This is getting out of hand. I'm not doing that. And then he ends up attacking the chief actually, and just opens up the line. He says, let them in. So the people come flooding into the courthouse, and they're there to take out Wilson Fisk. Now, they're all draped out in this red Daredevil gear. They have like masks on to look like Daredevil, to represent the side of the vigilantes. And then we go back into the courtroom with Wilson Fisk. He gets another call from the attorney general. This time Sheila makes him take it and says, listen, he wants you to resign. If you resign, if you take a plea deal, he'll pretty much guarantee you don't get any charges and you can just leave, just get out of the city. And Fisk again says, we are not doing that. I'm here to stay. And at this point, Fisk has had enough. He gets up, he goes to confront these people raiding the courthouse, and he starts whooping ass, okay? Left and right, Fisk is just breaking faces, he's breaking backs. At one point he picks someone up, slams their back into the wall. I'm like, damn, he just broke that dude's spine, potentially killed them. During a lot of these interactions, it even looked like he was killing some of these people. It was an insane scene. We finally got to see the mask fully slip for Wilson Fisk, for the Kingpin, and him just go off the walls, okay? He is attacking everybody in sight. There's blood drenched all over his white suit. It was fantastic. It was real cinema. And at this point, I'm wondering, like, how is Fisk this much of a physical threat that he is attacking an entire crowd of people and they can't stop this guy? They can't take him down. He doesn't have any superpowers. He's just this big dude who's like 400 pounds. He has some training in martial arts, and that's about it. But he is taking out everyone. He is not to be played with, okay? Then we see Fisk facing off against Daredevil and pretty much Daredevil's army, and he starts pleading to them. He starts talking to them like, listen, I am your mayor. I'm here for you. Like, why are y'all going against me right now? And they're done hearing his lies. They're done believing the lies of Wilson Fisk, and they start charging up the stairs to attack him. And of course, Fisk is fighting back. Now, while all of this is going on, Daredevil and Jessica Jones, they're kind of pushing back a lot of the rioters. They're trying to get them to stop. They're pulling them off of Fisk. They're like, listen, stop. We're not like him. And once they get to Fisk, Fisk is getting beaten to a bloody pulp, okay? They're just jumping him. They're stomping him. They're all over him. But Daredevil finally gets them to stop. And then we get a conversation between Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock yet again, where they're sort of having a heart-to-heart. They're like, listen, we both leave the city alone, and the city will be better off without the both of us, okay? Just take the plea deal. We both care about the city of New York, so just do what's right for the city. Now, he's reluctant, but he eventually agrees to take the deal. But he does tell Murdock, like, listen, you understand if I'm not going to shake your hand during this? And he goes, okay, I understand. And that pretty much ends that insane scene there. Now, we do get like a slight time skip, and we go into Karen Page and Matt Murdock. They're having this dinner. This is all taking place after the chaos that ensued. They're kind of having a conversation like, I can't believe we finally have a normal life. And they really aren't used to it. You know, they're used to the fight. They're used to the war. So now that they're just civilians once again, it's kind of unsettling them. But of course, we couldn't end on a happy ending for Daredevil Born Again. No. All right, the police show up at this restaurant to arrest Matt Murdock for the crimes of Daredevil, and he surrenders. He doesn't try to fight it whatsoever. We see him get perp walked out after saying that he loves Karen Page, and she says it back. We then move over into another scene where we see Luke Cage. All right, Mike Coulter as Luke Cage. He finally made a return. I've always loved his performance as this character, so I couldn't be more excited to see him coming back to the show. Now, if you've been following the channel and all of the videos we've been doing on Daredevil, you would know that this was eventually going to happen. We've talked about leaks and stuff like that, which, by the way, I do have another leak to talk about, but we'll get there when we get there, okay? So Luke Cage comes into the room. He's talking to Jessica Jones, and of course, the black daughter with Jessica Jones that we seen, 2 episodes ago, we knew that it was going to be Luke Cage's, and it definitely was. It was finally confirmed. Now they have a child together, so that was a nice scene there. We get a scene of Mr. Charles. I believe his name is Mr. Charles. He's the evil business partner of Wilson Fisk, okay? He was dealing with Wilson Fisk a lot throughout this season. They eventually parted ways, but he's on a jet out of there, all right? He's moving on with his life, but none other than Bullseye Poindexter is sitting next to him on that plane, so it's safe to say Mr. Charles, as I'm just going to call him, is not going to have a safe flight back home. Now, you see Heather Glenn, Daredevil's ex-girlfriend, the psychiatrist, the one who's been going insane this entire season, and I've been wondering, like, what are they even doing with this character? She finally takes up the mantle of Muse. All right, you see her slide on that mask. She's had the mask this entire time after he attacked her, and she puts it on, pretty much confirming this is going to be another villain returning in season 3 with her picking up the mantle of this serial killer. And this person is just absolutely psychotic, batshit crazy, as we've seen throughout this entire season. Now, we finally get to see Matt Murdock. He's arrived in prison. He has the jumpsuit on, and he's walking past some AVTF members, so we know, he's going to be locked in there with them, or should I say, they're going to be locked in there with the Daredevil. And then we finally get to see where Wilson Fisk went off to since he's taken this plea deal. He's on a very nice beach. Really, he's the only person to really get like a happy ending here, almost like Thanos at the end of Endgame, or at the end of Infinity War, just sitting there satisfied, like, okay, the job is done, but we know he's going to come back in some sort of way in the future. Now, the episode cuts to black, And that's pretty much the finale right there, guys. It was a fantastic episode. Like I said, the best episode of Daredevil Born Again up to this point in the entire 2 seasons. I loved every single second of it. It was phenomenal. Okay, and if I had to rate this episode, I would go ahead and give Daredevil Season 2, Episode 8 the rating of a 10 out of 10. It gets the 10 out of 10. An absolute banger. Fantastic finale. Couldn't be more happy with it. Interesting that they dropped it down an episode. We got 9 episodes last season, 8 episodes this season, so that was interesting there. But I am looking forward to the next season of this series. All right, they got me back on board with this finale. Episode 7 definitely was still trash. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't complete trash. It was like a 6 out of 10. I gave it 6 out of 10, which is okay. It's average, but this was a banger finale. Couldn't be more happy with how it turned out. And I do want to say that Mike Coulter, again, I told you I was going to talk about a leak, right? So we did a video, I don't know if it was 2 weeks ago, something like that, about him leaking on his Instagram the finale for Daredevil Born Again Season 2. And it turns out it was true. All right, he posted a picture on his Instagram with him behind the scenes with Jessica Jones and Matt Murdock in the orange jumpsuit. So we're like, okay, he's going to get arrested at some point. That's how this season ends. And yes, that unfortunately is how this season ended. And it's now confirmed that this leak was legitimate, which we talked about on the channel a couple weeks ago, as I stated. So disappointing for Mike Coulter there. I'm sure Marvel is not happy with him. But overall, guys, those are my thoughts on this episode, and I'm curious to know your thoughts about episode 8 of Daredevil Born Again Season 2 down in the comment section down below. If you don't know what we do here on Jimmy Got ET, we do film, TV, and pop culture based content. If you're interested in this type of content, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.